Hello students, today's agenda is to prove circles similar, and we're going to do that through constructions, and you will be able to work on 9.1. So today students will be able to prove circles are similar and find dilations of circles and arcs. And so before we do that, I'm going to give you some vocabulary or the names for parts of a circle. So in here, this is going to be the center of the circle, and the line that goes from one side to the other side of the circle through the center, it's called the diameter. We also have the radius, okay? The radius goes from the center to the edge of the circle, and so that's the radius. The radius is always half of the diameter, and if you notice, this is the radius, this is the radius. We can draw the radius anywhere because it's from the center to any part of the circle, okay? Again, you need two radius to form the diameter. So if you don't know the diameter and you want to figure it out, just get the radius, multiply it by 2, and that gives you the diameter. The other way around as well, if you have the diameter and you need to figure out the radius for the formulas, many of the circle formulas use the radius, just divide by 2 and you can find the radius. We also have, whenever you have from one side to the other but not going through the center, and I'm going to draw it here, it's always smaller than the diameter. The diameter is actually the longest length that can go inside the circle. This is called the chord. Okay, and the chord again goes from one side to the other of the circle, but it's always smaller than the diameter. You will also find a line that barely touches, and it was a little hard for me to do it. You can see that, you see it twice. This is the tangent line. Tangent line. And this line touches at only one point of the circle, okay? It doesn't touch. The tangent will always form with the radius a 90-degree angle, okay? We're going to be seeing those later on and using that information. Something else that you need to know for this unit is that from the center, if you draw two radius and you want to figure out that area between those two radius, that's called a sector. And these two radius divides the whole circle into two different sectors. This is a minor sector, okay, this part here, because it's less than the other one, which is called the major sector. And I think it's with Y, I'm not sure. When you have a chord dividing the two, into two sections, this is called a segment. Okay, this is called a segment. And these are just names and they're lineal. For this one, these are areas and they are squared. Okay. One last thing that you need to know, and we're going to be learning more vocabulary, but the distance around, and it's closer, okay? It just means around right here. Sorry. The distance around this circle is called circumference. Okay? And everything inside, I should draw another one. When we're talking about everything inside of the circle, that's called area. And you have seen area in other shapes as well, okay? But yeah, so circumference is just the distance around, and area is the everything inside. One more thing that you need to know, and I think I can include it in here, is this section right here. It's related to the circumference because it's only the outside. It relates to the outside, but it's only one section. It's like the crust, maybe. That's called arc. Okay, it's an arc. And the arc will have measurements, but we'll see or learn more about that. And those measurements are in degrees, okay? Or we can talk about the distance as well. Okay. So before we start, let me just give you a definition of what similar is. And it says figures are similar if they have the same shape but may have different sizes, okay? So with lots of imagination, these look exactly the same, but except it's enlarged, okay? Has the same shape. What does that mean? That the angles are congruent. This is congruent to this angle. This third is congruent to this angle. And this angle, oops, I can do 3, it has to be 4, is congruent to this angle, okay? So angles, corresponding angles are congruent. Corresponding angles are congruent. And corresponding sides are proportional. That means that if I pull this one to grow, like when we do it in a computer to enlarge a picture, it's not going to enlarge bigger on one side and then a little bit on, and just a tiny bit on the other side. It's proportional, it's going to grow. Okay, that's what it means. Having that in mind, we're going to do some construction. So it says construct a dilation with a factor of 2 of the circle about the given point. So they gave you a point in here. And I'm going to put some papers underneath because it's easier to use the compass. Okay, so what I'm going to do, they give you this circle, they give you the radius. What you're going to do is that you're going to first, with this point, you're going to take it as your new center, okay, because that's what they're telling you. And you're going to draw a line, which is going to be your new radius. With the compass, you're going to measure the width, or I should say the length of the radius. And since it says a factor of 2, that means that you're going to measure that radius twice. So 1, then go from the point on that marking, and then again, that's twice. If they say with factor of 3, then you would do it 3 times, etc., etc. Okay, now that I have that, I'm just going to open my compass to the new position with this taken as the center and opening it to the second marking. Okay, and that's all I have to do. Okay, so does it look like I have the same figure, but it's just enlarged? Okay, all you're doing is just increasing this part, and the circle, I mean, you don't have angles, so with the angles you can see the congruency on that. Okay, for the next one, it says construct a dilation with a factor of 2 of the arc about the given point. And guess what? I don't have a given point, so I'm gonna draw one in here. Let's pretend they gave me this point right there. So that's gonna be my center. And just so that it's easier for us to compare, I'm gonna try to look at that direction, and I'm gonna draw my line more or less something like that, okay? Doesn't have to be perfect. You can still kind of check if you change it a little bit. So you're gonna do that. Again, you're going to measure this here, and we want that arc to be twice as much, so it's gonna be twice in here. 1, 2. Make sure that you put a lot of papers, because I noticed that that's when it slides the least. Now that I have the 2 markings, again, I open my compass, take this as the center, and so I start drawing the circle, okay? Okay, so there it is. Now, you're not going to measure the other radius, because I noticed that some students got confused about that. So the first thing was to measure this radius, okay, and mark it twice. Open it, draw the circle, and then you're going to measure the openness of the arc, okay? So you're going on this arc, you're not going on the other radius, okay? Measure one, then copy it here, but then you go to the arc, not the other radius, okay? How open it is. And so you're going to mark that openness of the arc. How many times? It says factor of 2. So 1, then take that marking 2 times, okay? With the openness of here, do it once, then there, and twice. And with your straight edge, you're going to draw the second radius, okay? And in here, you can see that this is little Pac-Man and this is the big Pac-Man, okay? So you notice that it's just an enlargement. It has the same shape. We talked about angles and they being congruent in the enlargement. If it's not perfect, at least it should be very close, because again, this is very close to 70 degrees. It opens to 70 degrees. So since this is the line, I go to where the, I go to where the 0 is, not the 180, because we never start counting at 180, it's at 0. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, it's close to 70, if you can see it right there, okay? I'm gonna measure the other one. And so, in here you have again 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Oh, and you can see that it's not that great, but it's close to 70 as well, okay? I'm not aligning it well. Okay, very close to 70, so they have the same degrees. And so that's all for today. Now you can do the constructions for 9.1 and have fun.